Thank you to Kevin Burt for the amazing work that he does at the Department of Workforce Services. As he mentioned, my name is Ben Hart. I'm Deputy Director at the Utah Governor's Office of Economic Development. And it's an honor to be with you this morning. Over the past couple of days and certainly over the past couple of weeks, we've gotten a lot of questions about the programs, some of the specific business support programs that our office administers. And so we welcome this opportunity to help provide some clarity, also to help provide an update, and also our path forward as we work together in a collaborative manner to do everything we can to support those businesses here in the state of Utah that need it. And as Kevin mentioned so well, we have so many jobs that are still available, that are still open, and yet we still are having trouble filling them at times. And so we would welcome everyone who has the opportunity and the desire to go to the websites that he mentioned to look for employment, because we definitely have that need in the state of Utah. The coronavirus pandemic and subsequent economic downturn have been difficult and challenging on many fronts. This coronavirus-caused economic event will perhaps go down as the most industry-specific downturn in the history of our country. Its impact has been almost surgical as it has ravaged certain industries. The state has responded to the virus's severe health and economic impacts. Responses have both been swift and aggressive. Those of us who help to administer these programs so appreciate the governor-elect, and the legislature who provide leadership and funding for these efforts. We believe that the state's economic response has been one of the best in the country, and we see that borne out as Utah continues to be a national leader in key economic indicators coming through the pandemic recession. Today, we wanted to provide an overview of the resources the state has made available to help struggling industries and businesses located in our state. A more thorough review will be published this morning on GOED's newsroom. We've been getting questions about the availability of money for these programs. As many may know, most of these funds are tied to the federal CARES funding. The Unified Response Leaders they meet regularly with the governor, lieutenant governor, governor-elect, and legislative leaders regularly to identify unspent funds and to allocate those funds to programs that have the most need. As an example of the state's business support efforts, in March, Utah was one of the first states in the country to put together a resource program for small businesses. If you think about this, when the pandemic hit, it was really right, towards the beginning of March 13 type date. We had our first program up and running by March 20th, which was staggering. As I understand it, that's a national best in terms of responsiveness to the pandemic and to our small businesses. The first program that we made available was the Small Business Bridge Program. And not only was it swift, but recently the Sorensen Impact Center provided an analysis for this program and determined that the program had a strong impact on underserved businesses, including 27% of awardees being in rural Utah, 33% of awardees being women-owned businesses, and 13% of awardees being owned by Black, Indigenous, or other people of color. In total, we were able to provide more than 1,000 awards for this program, which served to help keep individuals employed and businesses operational. A complete final bridge loan, short-term impact report, and press release will also be published this morning in GOED's newsroom. With all of the programs in aggregate to date, we have developed more than 10 programs targeted towards Utah businesses and those industries that are struggling. We've received applications from almost 8,000 businesses and approved more than 5,600 grant applications. We've also experienced a 12,000% increase in grant application compared to 2019, and we've already dispersed more than $163 million in funding for these programs, all without increasing FTEs or personnel costs. Our team at the Governor's Office of Economic Development has carried a huge burden in developing and administering these programs. I want to acknowledge our Executive Director, Val Hell, who has provided steady and consistent leadership for our office and to help with the economic response throughout this pandemic, and our Operations Manager, Corey Ann Edwards, for their phenomenal leadership with these programs. I also want to recognize the efforts of the Department of Heritage and Arts, the Utah Labor Commission, and the Salt Lake Chamber as they oversee other business resource programs, such as Create in Utah, the Stay Safe to Stay Open program, and the Small Business Quarantined Employee Grant Program. I also want to recognize the incredible work done by the Utah Department of Workforce Services, as they've been instrumental in helping individuals and businesses weather the pandemic with additional resources, programs, and education initiatives. I have the good fortune of knowing many of the people who work at the Department of Workforce Services behind what you may see in the weekly press conference. And I can tell you there's no more dedicated group of professionals out there. We're very, very fortunate to have them working the pandemic, and we're so grateful for all that they've done for people all across this state, helping them weather the storm until the economy recovers. Many of the state's programs have been targeted towards those industries that are most impacted by the pandemic, including food and beverage, retail, hospitality, tourism, mineral extraction, arts, and others. Other programs have provided help with needs such as retraining for individuals, providing masks to Utah citizens, outreach and education, among other things. Of the programs administered by our office at GOED, approximately 96% of funding has been dispersed. As state leaders identify any other additional funding available, we will work to get it to these programs as quickly as is possible. One benefit to funding existing GOED COVID-19 programs is that they're plug and play, and as soon as funding is received, we're able to administer accepting applications and delivering funds efficiently and effectively. As we look to the future, we realize that we are far from being out of the woods on both the health and the economic response required during and after the pandemic. The state will continue to do everything possible to support businesses, especially small businesses, which represent 99% of Utah companies during this difficult time. The economic side of the unified response, led by Dean Taylor Randall, continues to look at the most recently available data to make recommendations on programs that will have the greatest impact in supporting Utah businesses. However, we realize that much of the current CARES Act funding will no longer be available after December 30th, and state leaders continue to analyze how best to use the funding. While the state's response remains active, we are happy to answer any questions we can regarding these programs. Yes, the question is a really good one, and the question was, what can we do, what are we doing to help support local businesses and small businesses during this holiday season? Look, we're making a plea to the citizens of the state of Utah to please seek out and patronize small businesses in the state of Utah. We know it's really easy to go to your favorite multinational online retailer, and we're grateful that we live in an era where you can do that. But when you shop at your local small businesses, you're supporting your neighbors, you're supporting your friends, and you're supporting our economy here in the state of Utah. So we'll be pivoting our In Utah messaging over the next few weeks and coming months, really towards supporting our small businesses, getting the word out, and trying to help Utahns understand the importance of supporting small businesses and what that does for our economy. So please, please, we're encouraging everyone throughout the state to take time, make an effort to seek out your local businesses in your community, and please provide patronage to them so that they can help weather this storm as well. Thank you. That's a great question. That's a great question. Thank you. And the question was, do we still have money available within the Small Business Quarantined Employee Grant Program? And the answer is yes. And we're still looking to get the word out about this program. For those of you who may not be familiar with this program, it's being administered by the Utah Labor Commission, but it allows small businesses, those that have less than 50 employees, an opportunity to come in and receive a grant to help offset those costs that they incur through an employee having to quarantine. So we still have a substantial amount of money left in that program. We would love to see more small businesses come in and use it. As we interface with businesses throughout the state, it's becoming apparent that the loss of productivity due to employees who need to quarantine is becoming more and more of a substantial cost. And so particularly for our small businesses, this program is really critical and really can be helpful as you're trying to weather the storm and make sure that you've got enough money to cover costs from an employee who may have to quarantine. We also hope that the program will encourage those who have the coronavirus, instead of coming into work, to quarantine for the time necessary and to have your pay covered so that you can have the assurance that you'll have a job when you return and that you don't feel inclined or that you have to go back into work while you may have the virus. So we hope that this program will help on many fronts. There is still plenty of money available, and we would encourage all small businesses in the state to use it. All right, thank you.